Hi, everybody. We are back again with Caroline McDermott. We're really happy to have her here. And she's going to share her journey and what led her to Team St. Paul. And we know it was God, obviously, calling you, but maybe if you could share the steps that you went through to get to this point.
Absolutely, I would love to. Um, any calling is, it's just a wild story. So yes, we were talking a little bit off camera of like, in a nutshell, and I kind of want to start there of just like the baseline for everything that brought me to where I'm working is, there was this call of service I always had in my heart ever since I was a kid, whether it was like helping my family, my siblings, whether it was helping the dishes, or we had family reunions at my house, and I always wanted to help set up things. Like I loved working with my hands. So I've had this thing for service, and helping people all throughout my entire life. And I grew up cradle Catholic, so baptized, all the things, parents devout, and basically like a normal family. So I describe it like the first like 17 years of my life. It was just like in a haze of just like, I knew God existed. I went to mass, I did all the things like a normal kid does. And I remember my dad telling me at one point of, at some point in your life, you will need to have a reason for your happiness, for your joy, why you believe in God. I think I was at 13 at the time, and I was like, okay, Dad, thank you. But it really stuck with me, and I was like, why do I believe in God? Like I knew he existed. So get to college, and I went to Christendom College, which people in the Front Royal area know very well. And wonderful time that really just skyrocketed my entire wealth of knowledge and community, and I'm making friends and building relationships and learning about myself. And it was great. It was hard, it was amazing. And it wasn't until junior year I kind of hit a rough point. You can describe it as like you hit rock bottom, or you had an epiphany moment. And that was when I kind of recognized that there is something in me that I am missing. And in the chapel, Christendom, the old chapel, there was a stained glass window of the Sacred Heart. It's now the new chapel. But I remember looking at it, and it was Christ saying, my son, or in my case, like my daughter, give me thy heart. So in the midst of just all this chaos and suffering that was happening to me, I recognized that. And for the first time in my life, I perceived that there was more to the spiritual life than just going to mass and just believing in God. It was actually, I could have a relationship with this divine being because he became us, a man. So it was like this, you hear about all this broad theological topics, suddenly came down into a very practical human truth to me, was that there is meaning to suffering. I was like, okay. So my determination to get out of my situation, and my interest in like there's something to this suffering, brought me to the Sacred Heart. And so I then started now still have a huge devotion to the Sacred Heart. So I had all this stuff before me. I was kind of like in a daze, and then it was really hard in junior year. And then at that moment, I chose to begin this journey. I was like, Jesus, there's something more to this, and I want to know more. I want to know why I'm feeling all these things. I want to know why I have all these, say, issues of just like, thinking, anxiety of, I don't know how to articulate, or just like, lack of self-love, esteem. So, and whoever, is listening to this, you can insert all those stuff in, and you're like, I have all these problems, and I'm a broken human being. And from that point on was my whole spiritual renewal and catalyst for really deepening that relationship with Christ. And honestly, I just received so many graces through my relationships with my friends, my parents, my family, retreats, the Christendom education, which they'll probably love that I said that. But I mean, it's so true. I learned so much when I'm in the classroom setting, and then I was able to transfer it in prayer. And so it became from head to heart. And that took a lot of work, a lot of effort. But there was something so attractive. There was something there I wanted to know of, like, what is mercy? What is forgiveness? Why these were just words to me. And like, why did we say these? Like, as a kid, your parents tell you, oh, be kind, say you're sorry, be charitable. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, where's the meat to this? And I found it in that spiritual like renewal, whereas in forgiveness is a disposition interiorly of receiving Christ's heart to forgive others and love others. So as the goodest effusive, receiving all this stuff, I wanted to give. I was like, I want to just share everything that happened to me because so many of us suffer. Not so many, all of us go through suffering, and specifically, particularly in the military, you'll see very hard lifestyles. Even when you're not on a combat deployment or any deployment at all, you're just on a military base. It is extremely isolating and extremely lonely. Just hearing from my brother and all these other stories. And so that desire increased when I found out about the Team St. Paul, the Archdiocese, for military services. And it was like a marriage almost of like, I had a perfect opening, my heart, and I was just ripe. And then God put it on the plate. I was like, this is it. This was like last January. It was a calling. I knew exactly. It was like my whole being just like felt it. Which was just amazing. And so I've just wanted to just help those who may have never even known how to find meaning in suffering. So I particularly like Job a lot, and I'm huge on suffering, which is very interesting.
You know what, I'm right there with you. I wrote, I have a piece published in the Homiletic and Pastoral Review called "How to Find Joy in Your Suffering,"
Yes.
and with the sorrowful mystery. So I have a real a feeling for Christ's suffering too, going through some pretty suffering times. So I can relate to what you're saying completely, and I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. No, and it's such a human thing too, because one question in all of this was, okay, if all of us suffer, why is the Christian any different? Why are we different? Like, why is the Catholic faith the one faith? And I think it came about either through reading or just talking to someone of, we are different because we actually have access to the resource of joy. Funny calling it a resource, but we can find joy in all of it, and therefore it comes redemptive, and then can also not be used for yourself, but also can help others too. So redemptive suffering, offering up your suffering for others, penance. And so it was kind of like this mission of like the salvation of souls and your own soul. And so that is like, okay, this is why I believe in God, because if it were not for him, if we're not for Christ, I would be in a very different place. And I was like, yeah. And so I just wanted, I just desire to help people and also just to become closer with Christ. And since being here for 4 months, yes, I think I'm going on a 4th month. I have seen so many graces and miracles in the littlest of ways, whether it's a soldier coming up to both me and my teammate and saying how grateful he is that we have chapel hours where he can just go and be in peace, to some of them being grateful that we opened up our house on Easter Sundays. And the guy was like, I'm just really grateful to come back to this Catholic community. What better way? Like, I could not imagine a better way of coming back to to the base than this Catholic community. So much is like affirmation and like floods, like I say floods, like it has felt like a flood of people have been like just coming in, and which is beautiful. And so all these people that we're ministering to, you definitely see the need. So to cap the whole story, it started with service, went through own personal experience of suffering to encounter Christ, and that's where I really encountered him in a very specific way through his Sacred Heart. And then that transformed me into giving that heart out to others. And then ever since then, still growing my spiritual life. There's something new every day, and there's hardships at every corner, but that's the Christian life. We go through the hard stuff and keep going.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Caroline, for sharing all that. Everybody, we will be back again. And maybe we can talk specifically about what Team St. Paul is doing on the bases, what programs you offer, and maybe talk a little bit about some of those miracles you've seen. So a little more in depth. All right, everybody, we will be back. And thank you, Caroline.
Of course.